So now we're going to talk about the ovarian cycle and the menstrual cycle because they happen at the same time. The ovarian cycle governs the preparation of the endocrine tissues, so where the hormones are produced, and the release of eggs. While the menstrual cycle governs the preparation and maintenance of the uterine lining, so the wall of the uterus. So what's the difference again in the ovarian cycle and the menstrual cycle? Yes, the ovarian cycle happens where? Very good. That is the release of eggs. So this near, so it's where our tubules are and so on. And the menstrual cycle, it's where the eggs are and so on. And the menstrual cycle, where does that happen? Yes, in the uterus. So where we have our menstruation, Okay, so we have two cycles. One cycle in the egg and one in the uterus. So these cycles occur at the same time and over a period of how many days do you guess? How many days do you need to get your menstruation again? About 28 days. I know it could be sometimes 22 to 32. That's still very normal. Okay, so how long is your cycle? 28 days. And which two cycles happen at the same time? The ovarian cycle, very good, so the egg cycle, and the menstrual cycle, yeah. So the kind of blood cycle. The first half of the ovarian cycle, that means up to day 14 and so on, 15, it depends, how regular you have your period, is the follicular phase. So as you can see that here, this is the follicular phase. And why do you think are the first 14 days, why are they called follicular phase? Very good, because of the maturation of the folliculars. And so slowly rising levels of what hormones? Yes, FSH and LH cause the growth of follicles on the surface of the ovary. Remember, that's the round thing, and it produces eggs. So FSH and LH, they're taking a nice stroll, a nice walk, and they go to the ovaries. And what do they do in the ovaries? They make these follicles, they make them grow. And this process prepares the egg for ovulation. As the follicles grow, they begin releasing what hormone? I know it says a different one here. Don't worry. It's estrogen. Estradiol is a form of estrogen. So just imagine it says estrogen here. And a low level of another hormone, progesterone. Progesterone is not here in the cycle because it's a very low level that is produced. It's nearly non-detectable. And progesterone maintains the endometrium over there, in your uterus, to help ensure pregnancy. So your uterus is going to get nice and soft and filled with lots of nutrients, to ensure pregnancy. The trip through the fallopian tube takes about 7 days. So, we have the egg, and it's walking through the tube, and that takes about 7 days. And at this stage of development, called morula, there are about 30 to 60 cells. If pregnancy implantation does not occur, the lining of the uterus is sloughed off, so it's gonna go out. And after about 5 days, estrogen levels rise and the menstruation cycle enters the proliferative phase. The endometrium begins to regrow, replacing the blood vessel and glands that deteriorated during the end of the last cycle. So that's a nice overview. So the hormonal control of oogenesis, that is the formation of an oocyte, an egg before maturation, starts with what part of the brain again? With the hypothalamus, and then with help of gonadotropin, what other part of the brain? The anterior pituitary. Very good. So let's have a look at need to put that into focus. Yeah, I think that's fine actually. You can see here the first 14 days our little egg matures, and then after, we have here 14 days is ovulation. You can see also our body temperature. It's going a little bit up and down, but it's all very kind of steady. And you can see estrogen, which goes up, you remember. Also, there is progesterone. As I said, it's very low. It's nearly non-detectable. And we have the FSH hormone here, and the LH hormone. So the luteinizing hormone, as you can see, is all very undetectable, and also the FSH is, there's not much going on. So the only really thing that really rises until then is estrogen. Then something else is going to happen. And here you can also see the menstruation phase. So here we had our menstruation. At day 1, it's going to get sloughed off. And after day 5, 6, and so on, there's nothing really much going on in the uterus. So that wouldn't be, very helpful. But ovulation doesn't start or doesn't happen until day 14. So that's fine. The body prepares the lining of the uterus again to get nice and soft, and prepares its lining again. As you can see, that happens with estrogen. We have this rise here, and we also have the rise in the lining of the uterus. So that works perfectly well together. So we're all trying to get ready for pregnancy. Now we have the ovulation at day 14. So what's gonna just happen, as you can see, just right before that day? Oh, there is something very funny, isn't it? The luteinizing hormone gets really high, and something gets really low. Yes, it's estrogen. So they're kind of swapping their position. So we're still here at day 14. What happens? Just prior to the middle of the cycle, that's approximately day 14, a high level of what? Yes, estrogen causes FSH and especially LH to rise rapidly. You can see there is a little, rise in FSH as well. It's not that much, but it's still very detectable. And but like LH is rising like a rocket and then is falling again. The spike in LH causes the ovulation. So that is linked. A high LH means you have your ovulation very, very soon. This is also how pregnancy tests work. Because everything else is quite not really detectable. As you can see, estrogen is just going down, here that's just a little peak, but this is very drastic. So we definitely know something is going to happen. The LH tells us that ovulation is going to happen. So the most mature follicle ruptures, it really ruptures, gets out, it's going boom, and releases its egg. And the follicles, so that's here, that's the, so the egg comes out here, ruptures, boom, and then that is really nice. So these kind of, they look like arms, they go over and they catch the egg like your hand. So it's really interesting. You should watch a video. And then that little egg is going to travel here. We said it takes about 5 to 7 days and goes around here and here until it comes down here. So, but we're not there yet. So we are at the ovulation. So the follicle that did not rupture degenerate and their eggs are lost. The level of estrogen decreases when the extra follicles degenerate. We can see that it here decreases again, so ovulation happened. We don't need LH and estrogen anymore. They caused ovulation and now that's fine again. All right, now let's have a look at the other thingy. So we have the ovulation cycle here. Again, you can see our hypothalamus again influences gonadotropin, which influences and triggers then in the pituitary glands, which then stimulates LH and FSH that stimulate maturation of one of the growing follicles. All right, that's all happening in the ovaries. And that then also influences the uterus. The endometrium gets really nice and thick. And the growing follicles begin to produce high levels of estrogen, which stimulate then gonadotropin secretion. So as you can see, this is a plus cycle. So we're going to get more FSH, more LH, and we're going to get more estrogen and more and more and more and more. And it just doesn't stop. And that's why you can understand this little rise and fall afterwards, because they just don't stop. Do you see that? It's like a super machine. And yeah, they stimulate gonadotropin secretion by the hypothalamus. LH and FSH levels rise, as we said, resulting in ovulation about a day later. That's why it's a little bit afterwards, as you can see. We have the rise here of these two hormones. They do that just the day before. So then ovulation happens. Congratulations. We are now in the second part of our cycle, and this cycle is called the luteal phase. So following ovulation, the ovarian cycle enters which phase? Yes, the luteal phase. That's also the first or second phase? The second phase. Very good. And the menstrual cycle enters its, what do you think, like it, what does it do now in the second phase? Secretory phase. That refers to the changes in the ruptured follicle. So the cells in the follicle undergo physical changes and produce a structure called a corpus luteum, which you can see here. The corpus luteum produces estrogen and progesterone. So what does the corpus luteum produce? Estrogen and progesterone. Very good. So the progesterone, as you can see, we were going to go up a little bit. You see, so that's why, because this corpus luteum produces estrogen and progesterone. Very good. The progesterone, what does it do? Now, we haven't heard really of progesterone before because, it didn't really play a part in any of the cycles here, nor even really at. So but now it's, the progesterone is shining. It's the face of glory for progesterone now, and it facilitates the regrowth of the uterine lining. Very good. If you've listened before, what does it facilitate? The regrowth of the uterine lining. As you can see here, yes, it does. With the progesterone, we have the same thing here. We had here estrogen going up, and that now is the influence of progesterone. It's going to get nice and soft, ready for the egg. But it also inhibits the release of further FSH. Why do you think is that? As you can see, FSH is really down at the bottom here. Yes, because what is it called? Follicle stimulating hormone. Do you think we need another egg now that we already have an egg and we want to implant it here? No, we don't need another egg. So no, sorry, FSH, you need to wait. Your time's not yet. We don't want you to produce more eggs. And we also don't want LH anymore, because LH also, what did it do here? This spike was important for ovulation, yeah? Do we want another egg to ovulate? No. Okay, so this needs to be really low. So what hormones are really low in the luteal phase? FSH and LH, because the inhibition of these two hormones prevents any further eggs and follicles from developing. Like we said, we don't need more eggs. We already have one. While the progesterone is elevated. So the progesterone needs to be elevated because it's responsible for what? For the lining of the uterus. Very good. And the follicles, the level now of estrogen, let's have a look at that. Produced by do you remember again? Corpus luteum, yes, increases to a steady level for the next few days. So what is increasing steadily? Yes, estrogen. So now it depends, is our egg fertilized or not? Well, let's have a look again at our other cycle. We had the ovulation here again. Do you remember that the day 14? And now let's have a look what's gonna happen after day 14. The luteal phase. Again, we have the part in the brain, hypothalamus, very good, and the pituitary gland. And what does the pituitary do? So LH stimulates the growth of corpus luteum from follicular tissue left behind after ovulation. We know what this does afterwards with estrogen, but let's have a look first. Then both of these hormones act in the ovaries, in the corpus luteum. You know, the let's say leftover part of the egg. You know, the egg is gone, but there is a kind of a thing that's left over, you know, the rest of the egg. So that's called the corpus luteum. That is still there in the ovary, you know, and it has an effect because the corpus luteum secretes estrogen and progesterone. What do they do? You remember? We had a spike or you know, steady growth of estrogen and an even bigger rise in progesterone in the second phase. So we're in the second, you know, actually in the third phase, the luteal phase, but the second phase, if you divide them into two, they've divided it into three. They also counted the ovulation as a kind of a phase. So what does it do? They block gonadotropin production by the hypothalamus. So if gonadotropin is blocked by, yes, estrogen and progesterone, what happens? Gonadotropin usually triggers what? FSH and LH. So because of the block of the gonadotropin production by the hypothalamus, and also then there is a block for the LH and FSH production. Do you remember our line? So here, LH and FSH are at the bottom. You know, they're not rising because of these two hormones. They say, now it's our turn, and you know, you have to wait. We also know that FSH is important for producing another egg, and we don't want another egg because, you know, we already have one egg. Let's see what's going to happen with this egg, but we already have one. We don't need another one. And in the uterus, they cause the endometrium to further develop. Of course, because why do we want the endometrium, that's the wall of the uterus, why do we want that to grow? Why do we want, you know, the uterus to like be really thick and nicely, and you know, you have the little capillaries here, so the blood vessels and so on, everything is in there, nutrients. Why? Yes, because, you know, the body is getting prepared for being pregnant, you know, so we need that to you know, that should be a nice house for the egg. So let's see. If no fertilized egg is implanted into the uterus, the corpus luteum, this thing over here, you know, that is still left in the ovary, degenerates because we don't need that anymore. And the level of estrogen and progesterone, what do you think? Decrease or increase? Yes, decrease. Why would they decrease? Yes, because we don't need more lining anymore. I mean, the uterus looks really nice already. It's fine, you know. It's done. We're gonna start the cycle over again. So the endometrium begins to also to degenerate. So, you know, that's your menstruation, the blood, and the progesterone levels also drop, initiating the next menstrual cycle. So why does the next menstrual cycle start again? Yeah, because the egg wasn't fertilized, and what degenerated? The corpus luteum. And what kind of hormones decreased? Estrogen and progesterone. Perfect. And now the decrease in progesterone also allows the hypothalamus to send gonadotropin to the anterior pituitary. Let's go over there again so that you can see that. Releasing FSH and LH and starting the cycles again. And then we're back again at square one. And then this happens here again. Do you know? We are in phase one again, because after menstruation, the body is ready to produce another egg, you know, because at one point this body has to get pregnant. So that's that. And I also wanted to show you the understanding of the next cycle. As you can see, this here is now we're, like I said, we're preparing for the next period. We saw there was a rise in estrogen and a little spike here again. Progesterone was really high, but all of them decrease. And the luteinizing hormone and the FSH, they don't do anything here. And then they, you know, start to rise again because we need another egg, you know. But what happens if we're pregnant? You remember I told you progesterone is important for what? The lining of the uterus. Do you think we want progesterone to decrease if we have a fertilized egg? No, we don't. We want progesterone to go up. We also want estrogen to go up. Do we want FSH to go up? No, because we don't need another egg. Yeah, so that's gonna drop significantly. So here again, now you know if you're pregnant or not, if your progesterone levels and estrogen levels are very high, then you are pregnant. Yes. So here again, if your progesterone levels go down and your estrogen levels go down, and you take your test here, it shows you that you are pregnant or not pregnant? Not pregnant. Very good. Let's say your progesterone levels and your estrogen levels are very high on day 30, and you take your test. Yes, you're pregnant. You are pregnant. Congratulations.